Namaskar. Are some people more important than the others in the eyes of the judiciary? That's the question I intend to ask tonight. And I have the president of Supreme Court Bar Association, Mr. Dushyant Dave, to answer that. So let's get right into the show and ask some very, very interesting questions about the Supreme Court, law, and judiciary to Mr. Dushyant Dave. Let's get right into the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on this online interview, Mr. Dave. Such an honor to have you. Sir, I'll go into my first question directly. Sir, are some people more important than others in the eyes of the judiciary?
Well, every system has its strengths and its weaknesses, and every system has good points and some difficult points. And I'm sure despite all its best efforts that the Supreme Court is making to ensure that everybody gets justice as quickly as possible, there are times when I think the Supreme Court is perhaps unable to stop some people making a march over others. And this happens more because the registry sometimes is influenced by, some people. And that is something which is little worrisome. And I have tried to bring it to the notice of the Honorable Chief Justice of India again and again. But it does appear that things are not, I would say, in the most happy situation that we would like the court to be, supremely objective and willing to serve one and everybody simultaneously or, in the same proportion or same manner. So that's something which is an institutional issue, and I think they will have to correct it. We only can try and point it out to them, and that's the duty that we as lawyers have. We owe it to the institution which we love and respect, and that's what I have done. So I can't say anything.
Somehow this seems to be happening quite often. Sir, Justice Chandrachud made a statement during the Arnab Goswami case wherein he said protecting liberties of individuals is the foremost, the most important job that the court does. And he also pleaded that the judgment should be taken as a precedent. Now, ironically, sir, yesterday, the Chief Justice of India didn't take that case as precedent when it came to Kappan Siddique's case. And he said that, the lower courts should be taking decision. And he said that every case should be seen on its own merit. Sir, how come these kind of discrepancies happen? And sir, is this a normal thing?
Well, it is a normal thing, but it's not a very, I would say, desirable thing. In fact, 200 years ago, Judge Cardozo, one of the most respected American judges, one of the greatest jurists in the history of, jurisprudence, legal jurisprudence, had forewarned that weekly changes in the constitution of benches need not be reflected in judicial pronouncements. And that's precisely what has been happening. Justice more often than not is skewed or is, I would say, guided by the composition of the bench. And that is not a very healthy thing for an institution like Supreme Court to, allow. I think I don't think there is any serious brainstorming on the part of judges in this regard, because civil liberties is important across the board for a smallest man to the richest man, and everybody must get same kind of justice from the Supreme Court. It is not happening, and it is not happening more often than one can even describe. It's a sad commentary on the part of this great institution. And I do hope that judges, perhaps Chief Justice Bobde himself would like to correct this situation. I don't know whether it will happen or not, because this has been going on for many years that I have been in the Supreme Court.
Sir, as a senior advocate, I just want to know your personal opinion on Siddique Kappan's case. Do you think it should have been given to the High Court for judgment?
Not at all. In fact, I am surprised that he has been arrested in the first instance. because I don't see, as I have not gone into details of his case, but from what I have read in the newspapers, there is no doubt that there is not even a prima facie case against him. But the government in Uttar Pradesh is little takes things very differently, and his arrest is therefore, I would say, on the face of it, unconstitutional and unauthorized by law, and he ought to have been released in one hearing by the Supreme Court. So it's disappointing that the Supreme Court has sent him back to the High Court.
Sir, then I go back to my first question. Are some people more important than the others in the eyes of the judiciary, sir? Is this now becoming quite obvious?
I won't say that they are important or less important, but yes, the justice is, I would say, at the interpretation of individual judges, which ought not to happen, because one of the cornerstones of justice delivery system is that it must be consistent, and it cannot depend on who the judges are. And this kind of things are really not good for the administration of justice.
Is the court working on behest of the government, or is the court favoring the government by possibly not giving a judgment on cases like the petition against Article 370, or petition against CAA, or petition against detention of people in Kashmir? Is the court favoring the government, or is the court working on behest of the government?
No, I definitely will disagree with you that court is working at the behest of the government. Certainly not. But yes, I would be happy if the court were to take all cases, more seriously, particularly cases involving constitutional issues. And, scrapping of Article 370 perhaps is the most important issue for, several millions of people living in Kashmir Valley. So, there's no point running away from these issues. What I feel is that the court somehow is running away from, examining these issues as quickly as possible. Take, for example, the, farm laws. Now, if the challenge has been brought before the Supreme Court, it would have been appropriate for the Chief Justice to have constituted 7 or 9 judges bench immediately and, decided the issue. Because, ultimately these are matters which are very important for citizens. And, farming community is extremely important to this country, both economically and socially. And as Mahatma Gandhi had always said, that India really lives in villages. We cannot ignore farmers and their problems. And if they genuinely feel that the laws are likely to impact them adversely, and I prima facie I feel that laws are going to impact them very adversely, I think it would have been, in fitness of things for the court to have constituted benches. So I feel that, yes, the court is little slow in deciding these issues quickly, but I don't think it is doing it because at the instance of the government. I think court has its own calendar, court has its own approach, and court has its own philosophy. Many a times the judges are conservative in their approach. And but it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with their own.
That conservativeness, or that process, or that SOP, standard operating procedure, is not seen in cases like Arnab Goswami or others. How come it is only seen on cases which is basically, cases where decisions would possibly harm the government policy or go against the government policy? How come these standard operating procedures are selective, sir?
Definitely would, say that, giving justice to Arnab Goswami is not a problem for me. But the court should be equally, anxious and eager to give justice to others. And that is where court is failing, which is resulting in this feeling being created across the country that, court is not just, or is not, I would say, is not equally concerned about other people's rights as it was in case of. So this does give, an unfortunate slant to everything that the court stands for. It's a great court. It's a great institution. And court should really be conscious of these kind of problems, these kind of, issues. And as a result, there is very severe adverse publicity that the Supreme Court has received in last few months, across the world. It's not just in the Indian press, but the world press has criticized the Supreme Court's functioning. And many cartoonists are now, taking up this issue and are now facing contempt proceedings. So I think it was all avoidable. I don't think the court, nobody can grudge that if Mr. Goswami needed justice, he should be given justice instantly. I'm not at all critical of the final outcome of the judgment of the Supreme Court. But I am certainly against, or I am seriously concerned, rather, I would say, that the court is not so anxious about other people's rights. And I have seen it myself in many cases, including in the case of President of the Jammu and Kashmir Bar Association, who was languishing, under detention completely wrongly and without any just cause for almost 11 months. And the Supreme Court took its own sweet time to ensure that he was released. He was released, but he was released just in a few days before his actual 12 months term was to expire, which was not in a good thing, because, the High Court, a single judge division, they took their own sweet time of 6, 7, 8 months. And there are hundreds of such cases, hundreds. And especially, where government has decided to, strike at these individuals, saying that they really are a threat to the state and state security. I think it's the duty of the court to really go into the details of all these cases instantly to find out whether the state is at all justified in these kind of detentions, these kind of arrests, and release them as quickly as possible. And to that extent, I certainly will say that it is a matter of great disappointment that this great institution, the Supreme Court of India, or for that matter, judiciary as a whole, is not very, its record is not very happy.
Sir, I had read somewhere that Justice Venkatachala had once said that the relation between the court and the judiciary should be correct, not cordial. And I thought that was a very fabulously made statement. Sir, is the relation between the court and the government correct, in your opinion?
Well, relationship between the executive and the judiciary must be cordial, but at the same time, it must be, as Chief Justice Lodha had once said, it must be tense, in the sense that judiciary has a constitutional duty, obligation, a pious duty to ensure that the executive does not overstep its limitations. And to that extent, I think the judiciary must be extraordinarily vigilant to ensure that government follows the constitution in letter and spirit.
Why is Supreme Court, or why is judiciary per se, and particularly the Supreme Court, so sensitive nowadays? So many contempt of court. Prashant Bhushan, Kunal Kamra, now this young cartoonist Richita Taleja. Why is the court so sensitive now? Why so much contempt of court?
I would not say court is sensitive. I think I have been personally very critical of the court for a number of years. But you must, must maintain a balance. You cannot bring the court in bad light. You are entitled to criticize the court for its actions or inactions, but you must show at the same time utmost respect to the institution. And, if you try and bring down the reputation, or if you try and impute motives, which many of these people do, I think then the line is crossed, and that line is, ultimately results in initiation of contempt proceedings. Although I do say that the law of contempt is very, I would say in India, extremely narrowly interpreted against the citizens. I don't think most of these cases really deserve to be, to be brought under the contempt law. Prashant Bhushan's case, for example, was certainly not a case where any contempt action should have been initiated, much less he should have been found guilty of contempt. I think the Supreme Court has certainly made a serious error in convicting Prashant Bhushan for contempt of court, at least insofar as those two tweets are concerned. I don't know about any other case, but those two tweets for which he was, proceeded against did not amount to contempt by any stretch of imagination. And you look at the jurisprudence within India, as also jurisprudence outside India, Prashant Bhushan deserved to be given a clean sheet. Unfortunately, Supreme Court didn't do that, and that's a matter of great regret. Now Prashant has filed a review petition, and one hopes and prays that Supreme Court will really, apply the law objectively and give Prashant justice that is needed. So far as other cases are concerned, it's really sad that the court likes to be drawn into this, contempt matters. Frankly, court is a very great institution, and it should have, broad shoulders to weather any kind of criticism, including, criticism from cartoonists. Yes, sometimes they do try and disparage the institution. Sometimes they do try and bring down the image and reputation of the Supreme Court, which must be protected. But all that is done in a lighter vein. Cartoonists have a duty. They are ultimately the mirrors of the society. And, those cartoonists therefore have an obligation to let the people know as to what is the true reality that the society is in at current time. In England, for example, I remember a cartoon which appeared a day after the judges, the House of Lords, had passed a judgment in the famous spy catcher case, where they had allowed the government's appeal and injuncted this, publication of a book by ex-MI5 agent, a Secret Service agent. And next day, the Times, I think, or the Guardian, I think Times, carried a cartoon in which they showed the three House of Lords justices upside down, and they said justice queued. So, and it was, contempt was sought to be initiated, and the judges said there's no contempt here. So, I think we have somehow as a nation lost, our sense of smiles, our sense of, poking fun at others, our sense of enjoying, this kind of lightheartedness in our, these are the ways in which every citizen must, try and enjoy the current political situation or the economic situation or judiciary's performance, everything. I think that we have become far too serious than what we need to be.
Do you see a relationship between the imagery that is now the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court imagery in India and across the globe, and the kind of contempt that is being filed? Do you see a relation between them, sir? Because as the image comes down, the contempt is going up.
No, I think I won't agree to that statement. I'm not for a moment saying that, there is anything, any correlationship between. I'm not saying that Supreme Court's image has come down. Yes, Supreme Court's image is under challenge today. And I would hope and pray that the justices, really realign themselves, readdress the issues that are confronting the institution and the grievances of the citizens, as also the media and every, section of the society, and try and, solve them as quickly as possible before, any further, any serious damage is done to its foundations. And I have no doubt that the judges are perhaps considering in that direction. And I would personally appeal to the Honorable Chief Justice Bobde, whom I regard quite highly, and his justices, who are all exceptional people, to really do serious introspection to avoid any kind of possibility where the judiciary as a whole, or Supreme Court in particular, suffers any kind of loss of reputation. I think they owe a duty to the nation to do that.
Why is the transfer of judges, appointment of judges, why is this process so opaque? Why doesn't the judiciary accept NJAC as a recommending body? Why are they so aversive of doing that?
Well, appointment of judges and transfer of judges is something which I am completely against, and I have said so publicly. Again, and I have argued also before the Supreme Court when NJSC matter came up. I am very clearly of the view that the justices have skewed the constitution in 1992 when they, assumed the power to appoint judges and transfer them by wresting it away from the executive. So instead of consultation, they interpreted the word to be concurrence. And in the garb they devised this, extraordinarily unconstitutional mechanism called collegium system. Correct. And have been making appointments and transfers under that power since 1993. And I can dare say, without any disrespect to the institution which I love the most, that this has not worked happily for the institution. And it is not only opaque, but it is something which is above any kind of debate, much less criticism, and that has done great, I would say, harm to the institution, because many judges have been appointed in high courts and Supreme Court who didn't deserve to be appointed as such. And during their tenures of 5, 10, 15 years, these judges who were not desirable have done great damage to the judiciary, to the cause of justice and the administration of justice. So I am very firmly of the view that collegium system must be abolished forthwith. The government should bring a new National Judicial Commission Act, but government should at the same time be very objective about appointments and ensure that the executive alone doesn't appoint, but it is in consultation with the Chief Justice of the country or the Chief Justice of the High Court and 2 or 3 independent people, fiercely independent people who are appointed in that commission to guide the government in appointments. These are issues which really are very important, very fundamental, because we today, present generation of us are doing something which is going to have serious impact on future generations of citizens. And therefore, we have an absolute obligation to be, very, very, very sensitive about these matters. We have to ensure that the Constitution and constitutional morality are preserved in the hilt, and we therefore lay down a foundation, a framework that future generations will benefit, and that they will be seriously adversely affected in future. So I think to that extent, we must do very serious thinking. We must have a very serious debate in this country about what kind of a system we can now bring in place of the collegium system. And but I must say that the judges themselves will resist it tooth and nail, because they have really enjoyed this power, and they are not going to easily agree to any other system.
Sir, talking about constitutional morality, which you just mentioned, sir, what is your opinion on Supreme Court judges, especially the Chief Justice of India, taking up constitutional positions after retirement?
No, I think that was absolutely wrong what Chief Justice Gogoi did, or for that matter, it has happened even in the past. I think Justice Hidayatullah and many other judges have done it in the past. And those are extremely, I would say, bad precedents. And judges should steer clear from, accepting any positions within the executive. Throughout the Constituent Assembly debates, this aspect was debated again and again. And many top thinkers in the Assembly, like Kanayalal Munshi and K.T. Shah, and other people had very seriously said that judges should be prohibited from accepting any position whatsoever after accepting judgeship and on their retirement. Unfortunately, they didn't bring any provision to that regard, because Dr. Ambedkar felt that it should be left to the conscience of the concerned judges. But I think perhaps Dr. Ambedkar didn't realize the kind of judges that we are going to have in post-independent India. Correct. And we are there. This Chief Justice Gogoi's acceptance has seriously eroded the image of the judiciary. And I think it's really a terrible precedent that has been set.
Continuing with constitutional morality, sir, the sexual harassment case, the way Justice Gogoi's sexual harassment case was handled, sir, is it fair in your opinion? Was it fair in your opinion? And sir, my last question, just a small supplementary question. Sir, that lady is being reinstated.
We should leave that. We should leave that question debated in public, itself debated it. Yes, the fact of the matter is that the lady was dismissed while Chief Justice Gogoi was in office, and she was reinstated after he left the office. That really calls for very serious explanation on the part of the great institution, which is the Supreme Court of India. So I won't say anything more than that.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Sir, my next question is, I want to know your opinion about the UP prohibition of unlawful conversion of religious ordinance case Bill 2020, especially in the light of the Allahabad High Court judgment, wherein they clearly said that the Noor Jahan and Priyanshi case as not laying good law. In light of this, sir, how do you see the judgment?
I would say existing laws, including the IPC, are sufficient to take care of any kind of forcible conversions of people. I am personally very against forcible conversion of people from one religion to another. But having said that, I must also say that all these people who are talking about this so-called love jihad really do not understand one thing, that you can never try and catch love behind bars, first and foremost. Secondly, all these people have never seriously read the Constituent Assembly debates, and their own heroes in the Constituent Assembly debate, three of them the present dispensation really admires them, and Prime Minister Mr. Modi has again and again spoken about them. One is Dr. Ambedkar, the other is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and third is Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. All these three people during Constituent Assembly debate repeatedly warned us, the future generations of Indians, that if you do not integrate the Muslims into the mainstream of the society, it is going to have a serious problem. They said that the responsibility is on the majority Hindus to ensure that they are integrated and they become part and parcel of the society. Now, these are the leaders about whom these politicians speak about all the time. You have a very beautiful pratima of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, which is so tall and which is now become an iconic place of worship for a lot of people. Dr. Ambedkar, everybody speaks about Dr. Ambedkar, and on his birth or death anniversary, everybody makes very pious statements about Dr. Ambedkar. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee is a real hero for those people who have center of the right of the center views. Fair enough, but each of these people were great leaders, very tall leaders. They understood India much better than the current politicians understand, and they advised us that please do not do what you are doing now. And if they had read these debates, I think they would never have really done this. This is all done for politics. This is all done for votes. And believe you me, it is going to really bring this country in a very poor light in the international community. It is also going to create a very serious heartburning amongst people. And where will you stop? Tell me one thing. The Khap Panchayats in Haryana have been doing this for a long time, that you cannot allow these kind of love marriages within the Gotra or whatever it is. You might tomorrow bring a law that upper caste Hindu cannot marry a lower caste Hindu. I mean, where does this stop? We want one nation. We want all people to be integrated, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their caste, creed, and status. And that's what the Constitution is about, equality. And these are the laws which really are striking at the very basis of the Constitution, which wants a very integrated society, an integrated nation where everybody will respect and love each other. I think it's in a very bad taste, and I really hope and pray that Mr. Modi someday will step up and stop this nonsense. I do hope and trust that Judiciary will intervene and strike down these ordinances sooner than later.
Is this ordinances legal? That was my actual question. Is that ordinance legal?
Well, to my mind, it's not legal. I don't think it will withstand a test of constitutionality before any court of law.
My last question. And you can choose not to answer the second part of my question. Sir, in your illustrious career, sir, who do you think was possibly the best Chief Justice of India that you worked under, and who do you think is the worst? Like I said, the second part of question you can choose not to answer.
The best, let me first answer to you something else. The best judge that I have seen in my career was Chief Justice P.D. Desai, who was a Gujarat High Court judge who became Chief Justice of first of Himachal Pradesh, then Calcutta High Court, and then Bombay High Court, and then declined to come to the Supreme Court because his junior was brought to the Supreme Court before him. He was an epitome of what a judge should be. I mean, I really wish there were 10, 20 or 50 PD Desais in the judiciary today, and things can be very, very different. So having said that, amongst the Chief Justices of India that I have seen, I would say Chief Justice Venkat Chalaya was outstanding. So was Chief Justice Lodha, who was also very, very good. These two Chief Justices did a great job. Chief Justice Ahmadi also did an excellent job for reforming the Supreme Court. So far as the worst judges are concerned, Chief Justices, I think there is no point naming them because there are quite a few of them who have really done a great disservice to the institution of Supreme Court and the judiciary. I think it is not fair that one should name them. But there have been very serious challenges on several occasions when we have not got the best of the Chief Justices.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation. It was indeed a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.